First off, hello. Second off, we are Fair News Team 6574, and this is our presentation on free business tools and what they can do for you and your team. So I guess we can just go through introductions first. My name is Chaka. I am the administrative captain.
My name is Arison. I'm our technical captain.
And my name is Margaret. I'm our graphic design specialist.
My name is Arison. I'm our
So,
My name is Margaret. I'm our graphic design.
so we're going to be going over just 3 tools that have really helped us. We're going on our 10th year as a team, and we have been learning some new software and so on through that. And we just like to share that with the 2 people who work from our own team. We started using Basecamp around 2 years ago. It's our primary communication platform. Canva is one of the things we use for basically all graphic design related activities. And then I believe we've also been using pivot tables for data storage.
So we're gonna start off with talking about Basecamp. And it's like a combination of Slack and Trello, which I know is fairly common among first teams. But since it's like this combination of the two, that means it can be used for task management and communication all in one app. And it has a variety of options for things like assigning and managing tasks, creating calendars, and setting deadlines. So I'm actually going to pull up my Basecamp and kind of just go through what it looks like and how we use it. So I guess kind of to start this off, the reason that we ended up switching to Basecamp is because we had a situation come up where the school district needed to access some private conversations, but Slack did not really want to cooperate. And the thing with Basecamp is nothing deletes after like a set period of time. It will only delete if you delete it. And if needed, the administrators on your Basecamp can access and download any of those private conversations if a situation were to arise. And then I also want to give a big shout out to Red Raider Robotics because they were the ones who introduced us to Basecamp 2 years ago at a workshop here at MROC. So the first thing that I kind of want to talk about is just a general look at what Basecamp is. We have all of these things called projects, which are kind of like the different channels in Slack. And we have projects for just about everything from our sub teams to each of our competitions and outreach events. And within each project, there's a lot of different customization options. Like in our general one, we have a message board, a chat, and a card table. And you can turn all of these features on and off in each individual project to figure out what is best suited for whatever the project is being used for. And then there's also a lot of ways to organize it. You can pin projects to the top of your screen so they're the first thing you see when you open the app. You can also create stacks, which you can group a bunch of related projects together. I have one for all of our robot related stuff, and I always put our competitions in a stack. And then I don't have anything color coded on mine, but you can also color code things. A lot of this stuff has to be done on a desktop or a laptop, but it does translate over to your phone. Now to get into some of the more specific aspects, one of the big things we've been using is these things called card tables. And we've found that it's a really good way to manage some of our tasks and keep track of the progress on them. So this one, for example, we have just some of our miscellaneous tasks that come up, and we direct people here when they're looking for something to do. And what they can do is they can just drag a card down to wherever it is progress wise, and you can have people following the card, such as the mentors, so they will get notified whenever something moves from table to table. And that's especially useful for things like this. So our mentors will know when someone is stuck on one of these things and are easily able to go check on them and figure out what's going on. Another utilization of the card table that we have is our shopping list. We have everything that we are thinking about buying up here as a card, and then we can drag it here when we're ready to order it, and can track when it's ordered, when it's been shipped, and when it's on its way, and when it's delivered. And within each of the cards, you can assign it to certain people so they can keep track of the card. You can write notes, you can attach receipts, all sorts of things. And then one other one that we use during the season for more robot related stuff is we have one where each table represents a machine in the shop, and all of the cards are the different parts that need to be made on those machines. And then another thing on the task management side is you can create to-do lists. You can have multiple to-do lists within one project. You can assign to-do lists to people and assign certain tasks. And it's just another more simple way to organize everything. And then on the communication side of things, I'm going to start with showing off our team calendar. So we have a schedule with everything on it, and one of the nice things about this is people can comment on events ahead of time if they know well in advance that they're not going to make it. But then we also have a chat in this project for any like last minute things that come up. And then something new that we're trying with this project is we're having students make their names as a card, and each table is an outreach event that we have coming up, and we're having them put their name under whichever ones they are able to attend. Another very useful thing for communication, especially when it comes to things that are really important and need to be easily accessible, or things that the whole team needs to know, is you can have message boards. And you're able to pin certain messages to the top, and you can link stuff. And this just makes it so it's all the important stuff is grouped in one place. We do this a lot in our competition projects. We have all of the resources that anyone could need to look at and locate quickly during a competition located in the message board. Another cool thing we can do is you can react to messages in Basecamp, and we find that this is really helpful when we need people to come and help out with something, whether it's an event or, in this case, packing and loading for a competition. So it's just a good way for people to either acknowledge that they've seen a message or quickly indicate whether or not they can make it to something that comes up. And then I think the one like big issue that our team as a whole kind of has with Basecamp is the notifications aren't always consistent. They're pretty iffy. I know like sometimes for me, I'll be on my phone and I'll see like on the app icon it says I have a notification, but the notification never actually came through to my phone, which can be inconvenient at times, but it's usually not too bad. Just a little annoying at times.
Usually not.
I think the most annoying part is probably the emails. Like you can turn off email notifications and they'll still pop up.
Yeah, there's a lot of like customization settings for your notifications. You can get email notifications, you can set up notifications to each individual project. It's a lot, but they're definitely a little finicky sometimes. And that's everything I have on Basecamp. Does anyone have any immediate questions?
Do guys use Basecamp? What's like your favorite part of Basecamp? What's like your favorite part of Basecamp?
I like the order.
What's your least favorite part?
It sets everything up clearly.
What's your least favorite part of Basecamp?
All right, so
I'm pretty sure, like, who has used Canva before? Yeah, it's not a very niche website. It's everyone has either gotten an ad for it or used it for school. So I'm going to be talking less about how we use it and more about what we use it for on our team. My first favorite thing about it is that it's very versatile. You can do a lot of different things with Canva. We work on our t-shirt backs, handouts, designs for our thank you note cards, and like graphs. We do a bunch of different things with Basecamp. It can be used for a lot more. Sorry, not Basecamp. I was stuck on Harrison's part. Canva. You can use it for a lot more than just like making graphic designs. You can use it for a bunch of stuff that I can't get into when I actually open up Canva myself. One of the things that I am also really fond of is the free asset where these are all free applications, but with Canva, it gives you access to a library full of different graphics. So you don't need to go through the process of having to like get permission to use a specific image, get permission to use a specific graphic. It has an entire library of elements that you can find. You can find graphics, you can find pictures, and then you can use them without having to go through all the like the harder parts of it, I suppose. Which is very beneficial for a team like ours where we need to do stuff with branding. All of the gears that I use in our branding, free asset library. And I think kind of like my other favorite point is data visualization. Down here, you can see a pie graph. We use this for Advocacy Day this year. It's an event at the Capitol where a bunch of teams get together and present to legislators on why we should have funding for robotics. And Canva is very good for creating these detailed graphs where you can. Let me pull it up. So it's very good for creating these detailed graphs where you can select all the colors, you can label the different graphs, you can get rid of them, you can change all the numbers if you needed to. It's very good for creating a good like visual representation, especially if you are going to be presenting to someone, if you are going to be like leaving someone with a handout, and that is one of the things that I'm very fond of when it has come to events like Advocacy Day. And I think just in general, the way you can do so many different things with it and use it for so many different purposes while having everything you need in one place is super beneficial, especially if you don't want to be paying for like Photoshop or like copyrighted images. It's simple to use, it's easy to learn, and it's free. Does anyone have any questions? It's pretty basic. I think one other thing I want to note about Canva is we're able to see like all of our team related branding stuff. So like our colors, our font, our logos. We can have just save all of that in Canva. So it is very easily accessible to us and we don't have to go like hunt somewhere to find the image of our logo that we need to use. Things like that.
And this is probably public knowledge as well, but we can kind of like how Basecamp had its own like projects and folders. You can do that with different things. So I have one for Whitewater High School. I have one for like the team, and I have one that's personal. It's very good for sharing things among ourselves and like sharing those designs so multiple people can work on them. And it's easy to connect with the school district. So I think that's all for me. I'm over here for some reason because I wanted to balance it out. All right. So, how many people have used Google Sheets? Okay, if you're not raising your hand, you're lying. Google Sheets everyone knows just sorting data, helping with like numbers, things like that, built-in calculator, even though most people don't use that section, just things like that. But with pivot tables, this is something we use a lot for business aspects. So it helps a lot with sorting raw data and can be used in units from like prices to what number order this was to like how much time we really put into it, like the date, things like that. And one of my favorite parts about pivot tables is that you can change the aspects of it and the visuals on it completely just by changing where a certain like variable or certain graph part of it is in. So main things that we've worked on with it is what I said earlier, business. We have a link here that I'll click in a second. But the main thing that I've been using it on just to kind of practice with it is the records. So there's a thing that we do called Project Preserve, where it's a recycling program and teams donate filament. And to keep track of those, I have this large, not very large, this decently sized Google Sheet. And it doesn't seem like a lot of data, but it's anything could be crunched down more. So we have this right here. Usually to make a pivot, you would click any part of the Google Sheet, click insert here, and then pivot table shows up. Usually it'll show up if you have something clicked, but you can click here to sort it yourself. But obviously we won't need that. You'd click create to create a new sheet, but that's already done. Here is the slightly shortened down version. It doesn't look like it's been shrunk a lot more, but when you go into like the pluses and more, you can see exactly what colors of filament that like certain teams donated, how much they did, if they got anything in return and it met our requirements, things like that. But when you create a pivot table, you see this section where usually when you create it, you'll have a lot of suggestions. Those haven't really worked that much in my experience, but there's rows, there's columns, and there's values. Values is kind of the more number side of it, which you can see at the bottom. That's probably the main thing you want to use. Columns are more helpful for more specific like secondary information and the things that you sort it by, the kind of dependent variable. And the independents are what you want in the rows, like name and number of each team. That's the easiest spot to put it. Filament color, that when you have multiple variables in a row and or column, that's when these plushes show up automatically, and that's when you can see exactly how much you can break it down. It's mainly useful for kind of numbers and things like that, and I kind of learned that the hard way. Um, the main thing that you want to do when you use pivot tables is use numbers or keywords. Because if you don't do that, I think a perfect example is in our tab. This is something that I messed up on, if I remember correctly. You'll see black, you'll see red, black, and gray. This kind of creates a completely new sheet in it. Because if this were split up into red, black, and gray, then we'd have more things in the red tab and more things in the black tab. And I guess what I'm trying to get at is if you over or if you make simplification too complicated, it defeats the entire purpose. So I'd heavily recommend using pivot tables for mainly numbers unless you put forth the effort to use keywords, because that makes things go a lot smoother. We can close that. And the main example of what a pivot table should look like is in our income and expenses thing. This is the main thing that we've kind of used as a log to track what we have. So we have our pivot table here. You can see obviously how much we've spent on each tab, but if you go in plus, like we said earlier, you see a lot more spots on what exact hotels we spent at, how much we spent, and this is a good way to keep track of, like I said, numbers earlier. Are there any questions in terms of pivot tables?
So you can put like who put the filament and whatever, and put expenses, but like what
So
else?
you can put
Like ideas,
who put the filament and whatever. You can put
I don't
expenses,
follow.
but like what else?
Like
Like
you
ideas.
have one for teams that donate filament, so that's an idea for
Like
one pivot table.
you
You
have
have one
one
for
for
budgeting, which is an
teams that
idea for
donate
another
filament.
pivot table.
So
What are like other?
You just want more uses for it.
One
Okay, I'm
function
sorry.
teaches
Yeah.
them
In general, it just helps with like funds, prices, things like that. But it also sorts raw data just like you would use for any other kind of Google sheet.
Can I jump in for a second?
Of course.
Can we go back to the income and expenses one? Down at the bottom of that list, does that just pop up here?
Down at the bottom
There we are.
of that.
So for 24-25, there are like 6 different pivot tables going down there. What are they charging? One is expenses, one is
Funds, there's funding accounts, expenses accounts.
Yep. So any different way you want to classify the data. So if you go into the accounts of those, that's like all the numbers that our district requires, like where our money is,
That's like all the numbers that our
certifications,
district requires.
whatever. And so we can see exactly how much is in each of those, but it's all pulling from the same spreadsheet. So we have one spreadsheet with particular columns, like by company, so we can see how much did we spend on revenue this year? How much did we spend at West Coast Products this year? How much did we spend on food this year? But you can look at it in all different ways without having multiple spreadsheets. So it's all in one spreadsheet with different pivot tables pulling different categorizations of the data.
I believe also some teams use it for storing their scouting data with like the different statistics for each match, although I'm not completely sure on that. I think that's just something that I've seen at another workshop.
That sounds about right. Sorry about that. It's with raw data, data storage, data sorting, things of that nature. Just one last point I'd like to drive home. Thank you again for the question. Is just less equals more. So that's another thing driving back with the numbers and the keywords. Last minute questions.
I have a question about Basecamp. So, our team uses Basecamp, and we have like 5-ish people on our team, and only like probably a third of them actually check Basecamp and like are actively like engaged in like checking tasks. Like, how do you just like I don't know like what are tips to like make sure like everyone's like engaged in looking at the tasks too?
So that's something we've definitely struggled with too, especially when we first switched over to Basecamp. It was a struggle to get people, actually working with it. But we just kind of just got to be pushy about it. We found like if someone asks you a question about something, like say someone came to me with a question about our schedule for this weekend, and I can just be like, if you didn't see it, it's in Basecamp. Go look there. And we've been trying to boost our Basecamp engagement with that card table we have in our general project with all of those miscellaneous tasks. If someone comes to us looking for something to do, we can be like, go check this card table and see what needs to be done. So it's definitely a process trying to figure out how to get more people engaged, but we found that you just kind of gotta push them a bit.
That
I
and
think if
kind of
the only place where people can find that information, they're going to have to start using it. We'll throw Laura under the bus, the team captain who absolutely hates Basecamp. What has to be done so that
I think another part of it, you covered all of it mainly. There's just like maybe one thing is just they always have in like a way to use it. They always have an opportunity to use it. So if there's some kind of problem and they're like, well, I don't have the chance. Like, where do I use Basecamp on like a day-to-day competition-wise basis? We always try to have some form of communication outside of that. Like attendance is a really good example. There's that. During competitions, there's always people trying to check in for their scouting schedule. We always try to have there be some wire of communication.
Does anyone have any other final questions?
If there are any that come to the noggin later in time, or if you just rather not answer or ask in front of everyone, you can reach out on our email, fairterms@gmail.com,
And if there's some mentors here who want to reach out for specifically for educator related questions, we have Ms. Osborne's email. Mentors here who want to reach out for specifically for educator related questions.
Yeah.